the Rangers Journal Night.
Evening everybody and welcome back to our Rangers Journal podcast. I'm your host Scott Mackay and I'm delighted to be joined by three OGs tonight. We've got Ross, Dean and Stevie. Three guys that have all been here from the beginning. Ross, how you doing, pal?
Well, you've made me feel very old there, Scotty. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm really good.
We're only 6 months old, mate. We're only 6 months old.
It's true. Feels like longer, but yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm really good. Delighted to be on with you guys tonight to talk all things Rangers. How are you, mate?
Aye, hanging together. Can't complain. Nobody listens, mate. Dino, how are you, pal?
Nah, I'm very well. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for asking. Looking forward to this tonight.
Good stuff. Stevie, last but no means least, how are you?
I'm good, mate, thanks. Enduring this international break as best as I can.
Aye, I know. It's culture, man. It's absolutely brutal international football. We say England scores it still nothing each.
I've been checked.
0-0. Yeah.
20 quid on Saka if a shot on target. England to score England to score 2 goals and there's something else and I got 120 quid back and Saka was nowhere near a goal in the first half. I was like, how's it even happening? It's Greece, so it's 1-0 to Greece. Paul just jumping in the comments telling us. Jesus, wet.
That's my bet gone as well.
Right, anyway, so we're here to kind of do a wee Q&A and have a wee chat about, I suppose, season expectations and where we're at. Let's put it bluntly. We've not got anybody in our boardroom. We're 5 points behind Aberdeen and Celtic. Aberdeen have got off to a very good start of the season. Should we be concerned, Ross? And where we are? Or do you think it's too early to start jumping on that bandwagon?
It's a good question. There'll come a point, won't there, where we have to actually kind of take stock and think, okay, this is probably as good as it's going to get, or do we just keep passing this on for another 2-3 games, hoping that things get better? Like, I'm not in crisis mode. I don't think things are horrific. I don't think we're facing down the barrel of, no European football or whatever next season. But I guess my thoughts throughout the summer were that the whole state of affairs within the club is worrying. So it's an underlying worry. So, scores on and results help and it quietens the noise down. But a lot of the stuff that we see I think has been mishandled over the summer, whether it's Ibrox, getting the stand redone, whether it's not having a backup plan if that didn't land correctly. And then I guess a lot of the transfers that as the weeks went on and the sort of rumours dried up and things started to look a little bit, worse for wear, should we say, in which that we all knew the lie of the land that people had to go before they came in. It was a bit worrying, and I think that's that's rumbling on a bit for me. You're on mute, mate.
I know. That's a yellow card, man. Yellow card.
It is.
Dean, we seem to be rumbling on for disaster just now. I'm talking about Cafe Park, like Ross says, with the stadium, with the boardroom. John Gilligan came out last week, maybe last week before, done a press conference. That certainly calmed me down in terms of hysteria and it calmed the whole support down. Craig Robertson has obviously left the club now as well. There's rumours that this could be us clearing the decks for a takeover. Where are you at on the whole situation?
Stuff aside, I'm just tired of it. I know things aren't done as quick as us fans want them done, but it's been going on just for too long, as you said, from disaster to disaster, licking our wounds that are, getting held together with a plaster, and those plasters that get ripped off pretty easily and they hurt because we're not any further forward. And then, as you just say, highlighted the 5 points behind. It's not just Celtic we're 5 points behind. It's 5 points behind Aberdeen as well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a quarter way through the season, roughly, aren't we? And I think you've got to be concerned. I think there has to be a level of concern anyway at this moment in time. Not like anything major, but, you've got to have a lot of awareness of what's going on. So, and the whole crack with the board, takeover, things like that is just, and I'm pretty sure the AGM's in a couple of weeks' time as well. So, it's like going to be probably one of the most toxic AGMs probably in recent times because of everything. I mean, when I'm saying toxic, I'm a sugar-coated toxic AGM in comparison to what's went on before. But if the right questions are asked, then hopefully we'll have a bit of more transparency and clarity of what's going to be happening next.
Litigation, come on, better not be next, because I've just finished interviewing. We've done a Genk podcaster, a Club Brugge commentator, a Monaco journalist, and we're doing a kind of mini documentary on Clemonte's time at Rangers, so he better not be next to go, trust me. The amount of time, blood, sweat and tears that's went into those 4 interviews is enough to make me greet if that happens. I'll quit podcasting for good if Clemonte gets it back. Stevie, where you at on Rangers just now in terms of third in the league? We're in the semi-final of the League Cup. We're domestically 5 clean sheets in the last 5 matches. Is it all bad?
No, it's definitely no. I'm a bit more positive than you and Dino, to be fair. 5 points behind Aberdeen's nothing. Fair play to them. It's a really good start. Cracking start for the new manager. But I don't think that's... Well, I don't know about yourselves, but I'm not concerned about them. We'll play them in a couple of weeks, and I guess we'll see where they're at then. So no, that's no concern at all for me. And I think a lot of obviously the board stuff, you're right, there's a lot of kind of uncertainty, which isn't ideal, especially this week and next week when there's no games for us. Part of the reason I don't like the national breaks, you can't really focus on the football, then other things come into focus. But those things will resolve. And we've kind of said it before, the new transfer strategy, it's looking like it's working. A lot of good young players. We're not signing guys that are like over 30 on big wages. To me, there's a lot of positives to really look forward to. And you said it, Scott, yourself, like 5 clean sheets. John Sutter's really improved. There's other players that are coming on. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking where we are where I expected Rangers to be. Like realistically, I didn't think like we'd make the Champions League. It was too soon for a completely new team. And Aberdeen, like I say, is a bit of an anomaly the way they've started the season, but I expect us to be closer. We've done really well since the defeat at Old Firm game. Blip against Lyon, but they've got a world-class strike force. So some things that I'm not exactly happy about Clement, but overall, I think the team has progressed, and we keep it going to Christmas League Cup final, hopefully. We'll see where we stand in 2 months. But yeah, I'm far more positive about what's happening. I agree about the board stuff. It's no ideal, but that stuff should resolve. And as long as the team keeps progressing, I'm quite happy with that.
Aye, definitely. I think Lyon was a harsh lesson, especially for Lisa Connor Barham in the midway part.
Yeah.
Jeff Day was good the first half, and then second half kind of similar performance at Parkhead where he went into his shell and he just focused on his kind of defensive side of things, which is understandable. Ross, the title of the podcast is Can We Really Compete? Now we're in 4 competitions this season. We've brought back Yanis Adji. There is still gaps for me in the team. I think we need if I'm Clement, I'm wanting potentially another left winger, depending on what's happening with Oscar Cortez, and I think we need a number 6 in midfield. Where are you at on all 4 fronts? But do you think this is a transition season?
Very good question. I think it is in Clement's eyes, but that's never going to sit well with us. We know that the numbers have slowly been chipped away at over the years with Celtic winning more and more titles, and they're getting close. And that's a reality. That's the kind of one thing that keeps us going, and it's the one bragging rights that we've got. So if we lose that, yeah, it wouldn't be a great place to be. I think it is a transition year. I guess one concern for me is we talk about young players coming in, and to one degree, I do believe we've brought in talent. I do believe we've brought in good youth. But if on the budget that we've had to buy a certain level, and therefore for me, we're not buying proven quality. We don't know whether this team is actually ever going to come together and hit a certain quality, a certain level. So for me, there is a bit of fear there that actually the amount of money that we've spent means that we've had to attract a certain caliber of player, and that caliber may not be the what we're used to. And there might have to be a realization that we will need to get a scrape through into the Champions League one year in order to fund a decent sort of summer transfer window, or we might need to win something substantial in order to get that and reach that level of investment needed to compete, as the title says. In response to your question, I think within the league, I don't think I think we're fine. You know, we'll definitely make European football. You know, we'll definitely be challenging for a while, I would think, in the league. But you know, are we really going to do anything in Europe? Judging by the performance against Lyon, which I dare say probably 2 or 3 seasons ago we would have been a bit more competitive against, then maybe not. You know, we'll pick up points against Malmo and Steaua Bucharest and a few other teams probably. But are we really going to mount a credible challenge in that area? Probably not. So for me, and you were speaking before about the board, and the sort of the worrying thing there, and I think there was someone that put it in the chat actually that I thought was quite interesting about Gilligan's interview. It was this one here. I'll just bring it up. Gilligan interview wasn't good at all in my eyes. Just seemed like a yes man asking King to stop saying mean words, the truth about the current board. And in some way, I kind of feel that that's the same. In my opinion, something seismic has to change at Rangers if we want to be a competitive team, and not just this year, in a transition year, if you want to kind of sugarcoat it in that. I understand the question, but if we want to be competitive, something seismic, structural, foundational within the club has to change, in my view. And then we can compete, and then we can invest, and then we can get back to where we need to be. Because as it is at the minute, we're chugging along year after year. We're chugging along. And as a Rangers fan, your expectations for the best. And at the minute, the way the board is, the way the structure of the club is, we won't be getting the best, in my opinion.
Ross, do you think it's fair to expect that we should be in a kind of same discussion as like PSV, Porto, Benfica, Dortmund, these clubs that aren't winning your Champions Leagues or winning Europa Leagues, but they're churning out? When we look at Darwin Núñez, the Benfica pulled Liverpool's pants down, as far as I'm concerned, with the transfer fee they got. I think it's 100-odd million. Do you think that's realistic expectations that we should expect to be sat at the table with these teams?
There's a lot to unpick in that, I guess. There's control your controllables. So get a good investment structure within the business, have a great youth system, have a great scouting department, control the controllables that we can affect. That's one element of it. The second element is that I don't know the amount of money that the league or that the TV rights in Portugal gives their clubs, but I would guarantee it's 5, 6, 7, 8 times what we get in ours, if not more. So they're things that are out of our control, and that takes leadership from a more senior, structural level within Scottish football, within government of Scottish football. The government in Scotland. I don't know who was able to make these things happen, but from my point of view, I see no reason why we can't be a great destination for young talent. You look at your Bassies, your Aribos, you look at players that have come in and developed in our system and got the game time and gone on to great things after that, albeit Aribo's probably floundering a bit at the minute, but you can see there's a high quality player there, and there's countless other examples. So yeah, I do think it's reasonable that we would expect to be at that level. I think the size and stature of the club is on a par with these teams, and if not bigger in terms of kind of the global following and the sort of the fan base that it draws in. But as I say, there's things that we can do differently, but there's also structural things within Scottish football that need to change to allow us to make these steps forward, as we notice all of the other leagues stepping on and we're still sat. How do we ever expect to be competitive when our league's here and these are all growing around us and we're still stuck in the mud?
That's it in a nutshell. That's the key point. Like, all these other leagues are progressing and they're getting more money, and Scottish football is going backwards or standing still, which is the same thing. Like league, I think it's League One in England, third tier English football, get more TV money than Scotland. Rangers are a huge club, like a global following. We all know this, but we're hamstrung with where we are, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's it. That's the point.
I look at Birmingham City. They've been out and spent 10 to 12 million on that boy Stansfield or Stansted. It's ridiculous money. They've got Ben Davies down there and God knows how much money. It's not even kicking the ball for them.
Look at them.
He's trying. Can't get near it.
It's sobering, man. It really is. Dean, where do you think Rangers should be? Do you think we should have been able to compete with Lyon last week at Ibrox, or do you think it was, right, fair enough, they came, they played us off the park, it's a learning curve, but do you think we should be, like, if small things go, if Cherny hits that finish in the first minute, do you think we've got a different game, or do you think ultimately Lyon still come out and outplays?
Aye, definitely the latter. Leon still coming out players. But I was, not even thinking that, there was a lesson. We should be even if we're not going to beat these teams, by playing football through them, set up so you're solid. Like Gerrard, I keep referring back to that because it's true. Even Gerrard's first season in Europe, I mean, look at some of the teams we played against. Villarreal and stuff. They were like, by man, better than us, but we competed against Villarreal. Do you know what I mean? And that was in Gerrard's first season, where that was as much a transition as to what this is, if not even more, in my opinion. But Gerrard did set us up when we were solid. We were difficult to break down, difficult to beat. So that's got to be on the tactics that the manager has set out. I mean, I would even be annoyed getting beat 4-1 at home by Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? It's like the Rangers were at Ibrox. We could at least go out and set up so we're going to be solid. We're maybe not going to beat the team on quality and be able to play football, but let's at least be solid enough to get beat on stuff, do you know? So, but in terms of the finances, where, as Stevie said, we've stagnated. We're signing players for the same amount of money that we signed 20 odd years ago. So that tells you all you need to know. And the quality player that's attracted to come to the league is getting less and less as the years go on, because every other country in Europe seems to be investing in making their league better, whereas the people that runs our game have got zero interest in that. So that's forever going to be one of the biggest issues within our game, when you've got people that don't even put the league out to tender and just take the first offer that they're given. So that's it in a nutshell. So we've got that continual battle to then produce money to then get players in, and then when you, as Stevie said, or Ross, sorry, but signing players that are 30 and stuff who have got no resale value. So when you're spending so long doing that, which we've done, we've further stagnated as a club. So now we're in a position where we are going to be signing players, and as somebody said, Clermont's got a track record of buying players cheap and selling them for big fees. Well, he's just a year in the door, and it's really, he's had 2 transfer windows, so he's not had much chance to actually produce that sort of expertise, I guess, if that's what the person was implying that Clermont has in terms of doing that. So, and that's the transition that we're in. So, and one thing we don't have is patience. So it's a catch-22 for a Rangers fan, isn't it?
Aye, definitely. Stevie, have you got anything you want to add to the boys' points before I
totally echo what Dean's just said there. I mean, it's like the guy needs time. We've totally changed the structure of the signings that we're making. It was really early days, and there's promise. There's a lot of promise for the young guys that have came in. So it does need time. If you change it again, we're going to come on. That's a disaster for me. I would not do that. But yeah, there's everybody wants success like right away. I think it's kind of like typical of society. Like you log into your phone and like order something, and it's here like again same day the next day. And it's like football fans these days, especially with the media and everything, it's like they all want it like right away, and it's like you need to be patient. We're in a situation where like obviously us coming back up through the divisions, that mob have monopolised the league, their influence at the SFA and everything else. So that's a factor. So it's very difficult to come back for that. I mean, we did it when it really counted with 55, thank God. But this is a new restructure, and they need to give them time.
Stevie, I'm going to come back to you on Paul's point here. He's saying Gerrard's team to Clermont's team, they weren't young players, they were all experienced players now. We'd Jermaine Defoe coming off the bench under Stevie G, right? We had a structure, with a well-oiled machine. You had Glenn Kamara, you had Ryan Jack, filling in when the fullbacks went forward, etc., right? I think it's clear to see that there's a bit of golf and quality there. Could we know I went out in the free agent market in the summer, say, and picked up a number 9 that's 31, 32, that can come off the bench when Dessers is having a howler? Which he does quite regularly just now. He's going through peaks and troughs, and he's going through a trough just now. Do you not think this is down to us not shopping properly a wee bit as well?
I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made there, but you're right. There was a huge golf in class. Even Gerrard's first season, he signed up a lot of really good players, you know, on decent money. Clermont's not got that at all. And I probably would have liked to have seen maybe I want to say Danny Ings, but maybe somebody who's like kind of proven down in England coming in, you know, and being there. That would be a great signing. But it's knowing the structure. We need to like change our thinking about how Rangers are run. You know, they're doing it the right way. They're cutting their cloth. They've knocked, 10 million off the wage bill. It's a hard time. Like, you don't want to accept it, but we have to do it. You know, this is a total change around, and it's something that should have been done 2 or 3 years ago, probably after we won 55. So it is a difficult time business-wise, but, you know, these are difficult times, but they will get through it, and they will hopefully see the fruits of what Clermont's putting in place just now. But I would have loved to have seen like a Jermaine Defoe type player, but, you know, it's not for now.
I look at it and I look at the striking options we've got now, and a 37-year-old Jermaine Defoe is better than any single one of them. I don't think anybody could.
42-year-old Jermaine Defoe is probably better.
Fair point. Right, Paul, I'll come to your question in a wee minute. Ross, I want to bring up Scots just now. If we lose a probable Old Firm Cup final in the January game at Ibrox, will the manager survive?
Okay, I'll answer it in two ways. Do I think he'll survive? Yes, because I think we've gone all in, and I think he has had to adapt to the situation and the lie of the land, and I think the board are almost slightly apologetic of that. He's been offered something and proposed a certain plan, and it's probably not come to fruition. I think he's been quite open about that some of the things that he expected within the club haven't been there, and I would guess that mainly revolves around funding, or, you know, even from a kind of Bisgrove level, having a structure in place from a board level. So I don't think he'll be going anywhere. And then from my point of view, I don't think he should be going anywhere either. It's almost that, you know, who are we going to get that's better? You know, I hear people talking about Derek McInnes. I hear people talking about Gerrard again, which is fine. But this guy wants to be here. He wants to win, and he's a powerful person. And I remember when he first came in, and everyone sort of took stock and thought of him as a highly regarded, kind of well-spoken, knowledgeable person. So as long as he keeps picking the best team he can, and you know, not making ridiculous subs as he has a tendency to do, then I think he's the right man for the job. Judging and sort of echoing what Stevie said, I do think there's talent that he's brought in, but that's talent that's been bought on a shoestring, and no one can kind of hide away from that. So I think he's done a good job with what he's had, and also he's managed to kind of control his emotions and the way that he speaks to the press quite a lot. So he's kind of that's infectious. So we felt calm that he knows what he's doing. There's a plan in place. And that's off the battle as well. You know, he's the kind of the face of Rangers, isn't he? Not just on the, you know, from a club, from a team point of view, but from a club, and he's representative of what the club is. So I think he's a good manager. I like his presence. I think he's he demands respect, and he has principles, all the things that you'd want of a Rangers manager. So I don't have a problem with that. For me, it's a wider problem than Clermont. And if you start just booting the manager again, as we've done 100 times, we'll look back and go, why have we done that? We're back at square one, and we don't have the board, and we don't have the resources, and we don't have the investment, and we're then in a way worse position. So my point is not to get rid of him, but to look at a different investment structure within the business that allows us to be competitive, to invest, and to invest in the right people. I take on board what Dean and Stevie said about, you know, it is exciting and we have to be patient, but when does this end? When do we stop being patient? You know, since 55, we've been patient. A rebuild. All we hear is a rebuild. And Beale did it, you know, and Van Bronckhorst wanted to do it and probably wasn't backed. And unfortunately, the one person who was probably backed, Beale, you know, it wasn't the right environment to do so. He didn't have the scouting team. He didn't have, you know, it was all on him. And to some extent, I kind of sympathize with that. But obviously that money's spent now, you know, and some of the stuff that King came out and said, albeit, you know, King's probably not, he's probably got his own kind of, he's looking out for himself slightly as well. But you know, that it's right. We had one up on them, and we've let that go. We've let that investment go. We've let that pot of money, which you don't come about often when you get to a European final. and you win leagues and you win trophies, that investment's gone. So we get rid of Clement, we are back at square one. And look, it might not be everyone's cup of tea. Some of the the substitutions, some of the starting lineups are a bit odd at times. That is. But he's working with them every day, and we have to trust that, and we have to understand that he's the one who's been put in charge for a reason. It's not us. It's not Joe Bloggs down the street. It's this guy who's worked at decent clubs and got success with them. So we have to trust that. And if we are on board with this patient process of a longer term plan that Clement's talking about, well, we have to stick with it. Then we just have to, because otherwise it's a whole world of pain and trouble that we'll find ourselves in.
Graham Marty will be back at Rangers manager's office again, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. Alex Ray will be there, temporary manager. It'll be hell.
Aye. There's nothing I can really disagree with. Dean, what's your take on if Clement loses the next two Old Firm games? Is it time to change, or no? Bear in mind his record's appalling against Celtic as it is. Where do you stand on that question?
Well, it's kind of like using the, how many more patience can Rangers fans have of getting beat by that mob? Like, do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it would be the right thing to do, but the recent abuse that was given to him and these players after the last Old Firm game, I can only imagine that be escalated even more if the potential defeat of the League Cup final and league game. So that's only going to put pressure on everywhere. So, I mean, I hope it's not going to happen, but it's a realistic possibility. We've got to accept that because that's the position we're in, unfortunately. And hopefully by the time we do play them, at least in the league, that he's able to put his strongest 11 out. That's what I'm going to say on that. Because I don't think given his track record against them, fills me with much optimism. But I'm optimistic that if he has his strongest 11 available to him, we'll give Celtic a good game, and that's going to be his best, because he's every time he's played them, I think he's never been able to select his strongest 11, and I think that's something that's been well said, and so that's what I'm hoping for, that we do actually once have luck's got to change sometime for us when we play them, and I think given his strongest 11, he's going to be capable of implementing his own game plan against them, and being at Ibrox with 50,000 of us. I'm not even thinking about the League Cup. To me that's irrelevant. I just want us to concentrate in the league and close the gap in the league, and be competing with them in the league, and that's where I'm at.
Stevie, what in your eyes is competing with Celtic this season?
Get as close as possible. Last season it was really close up until the last month of the season or few weeks. I think really just run them close. Like, don't just get away. Like, don't drop stupid points at places like at Dundee or at home to Motherwell. Win every single game up till we come to there. Play them at Ibrox. Just quickly, I would say, I know he's not got a good record against them, but in the cup final was very unlucky. We see Seamer's goal. That could have went either way, really. And it's a law of the universe. What goes up must come down. So they're not going to keep winning these games forever. That won't happen. One thing, Thomas H in the comments said that Gerrard had the blueprint for beating Celtic, and I totally agree with that. He was very pragmatic. So I would like to see Clement try and be a bit more compact almost. It's not a bad thing to defend. Like, Walter Smith was amazing at it. He'd go into Parkhead and they'd really, put a marker in the first few minutes and be like, yeah, you're not getting past this today. Even games you lost at Parkhead, you went down, not just getting sent off for nothing, but really competing for the full 90 minutes. So I would maybe like to see maybe more pragmatic with substitutions or whatever. So there's definitely room for improvement. But yeah, we'll get past Motherwell first. They're having a decent season, so see the semi-final goes. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to another Old Firm final.
Yep. For me, it's like you said, Gerrard put a structure in against Celtic, and Celtic knew they were in a game against a Steven Gerrard team. There's been one game, a cup final, maybe at home at Ibrox, a 3-each match. We've gave them a game, we should have beat them. But the gap for the last Old Firm is a wee bit worrying for me. There was 2-3 passes up the park, big gaping holes in the Midley Park, and Celtic scored. It's just, I don't know, that's worrying me a wee bit, the defensive side of it. Brings me on nicely to my next question, Ross. The first one that came in for Paul, and he said, question, guys, against the big teams, do we need to bin the number 10 position and play 3 in midfield to allow Diamonde to break forward when needed? I've just spoke about a structure. Is this something that needs to happen, a flat midfield 3?
It's a good question, and I guess there's probably not a broad brush response in the sense that every team, big team, whatever you want to call it, will set up probably slightly differently. So I think it's very hard to just kind of call it as one. You know, it might be that a team is great on the attack, but hates being, you know, not great at playing out. So therefore, having that 10 that can press higher up is what's needed. And then you look at pushing your defense up a bit higher and almost playing them as a sort of central midfielder or an auxiliary midfielder to fill in that gap. Certainly, just on that, certainly, I mean, if we're talking about against Celtic, I would like to see us be more aggressive and just more in their faces. I know that's easier said than done because they can nick the ball around pretty quickly in the midfield, and you know, maybe that's where we've been going wrong. But when I watched the game against Dortmund, they were so aggressive, and they were Celtic v Dortmund. They were so aggressive, and they were really in their faces the whole game. Didn't give them a second. When I watched Celtic play it out in that game, the 3-0 game, Welsh had he had all the time in the world at the back, and he is a dodgy player. Players like that, you need to just be all over them like a rash. Get in their head immediately. You know, get in, knock a few tackles in early, just even if it's a nick here or a nick there. Don't let them know they've got time on the ball. Make them rush and play out. The amount of and then you're looking at your team, and Dessers the right one to press it like that? I don't know. Do you need that 10 in there to press also? Probably. You know, I think there's a lot that we need to work on against these teams, and psychologically, look, we are in a bad place with them. It is a bit of the yips now that we're playing against them, because it's just they've got us beaten before we get on the pitch. Sometimes that's how it feels. So that needs to change. But you need to be aggressive. You need to give everything. You need to lay it all out on the park. And if you come off and you've lost, and you've done that, and you've been competitive, and you've tried, and you can see that willing from the players, well, then we all put our hands up and say the squad's just not where it should be. But until you see that, it's very hard to make that statement. Tactically, look, maybe, yeah, you do play the flat 3 and that sort of boss that area, but then you lose out on forward areas. And look, if we're looking at what wide players we've got in Cherney and probably Cortez as our 2 first choices out wide, they're not really aggressive. They're not very physical players. So therefore you lose a bit of that forward line, and you lose a bit of the kind of aggression up top. So there's pros and cons to both, I would think. But in essence, I guess I would urge the players to be more aggressive, be more work as a unit more. You know, when you press together, and you compact, and you make sure it's very difficult for them to progress the ball forward, and you keep them penned in for as long as possible, and then you nick a goal, and then it's, you know, they've got to come out at you, and the game opens up then. So I just think we've got to be braver. I think that's what I would like to see, just bravery and willing and athleticism. That's what I think we need against these teams.
I agree 100%. I was brought up that if there was a player on the fitter park that was better than you, you just kicked him as he skinned you. As he skinned you and knocked the ball by, you just took him down. You fouled him. You disturbed the play. You were that guy. And that's what's missing. We've not put a tackle in against Celtic in the middle of the park since the Cup semi-final win under Gio, the Scottish Cup semi-final win under Gio. That was a match where I think one of them was on the floor, and Joe Aribo or Calvin Bassey was over picking him up, and John Lundstrom was over harrying the players away. Weetie Dane Learner. That kind of attitude is what I think you're maybe talking about, Ross. That's what's missing.
It's just disruption. It's all too easy for them to get the ball out. I think the problem is, Scotty, is we've been stung by their midfield countless times in recent years. Yes,
Right.
they've lost O'Reilly, and that, you know, that they've got the new lad Engels in, and they're trying to, you know, change that slightly. But in essence, we've just tried to almost go man for man in that midfield to stop that ball going in. But if you know, you can't give the defenders that amount of time. You need to be aggressive. You need to get further up the pitch, keep it narrow, but you know, make sure that we're really tight on them. And as you say, give away a couple of cheap fouls. Let them know that they're in for a game. And it feels very simple to say, but you watched that game earlier on in the year, and there was just none of that.
Right.
There was none of it.
Aye, definitely. I agree with you. Dino, flat midfield 3. What's your thinking on it? Unmute.
Yellow card for me at all, I know. No under Clement, because as Ross rightly pointed out there, we don't have the wingers to carry out the pressing that, you know, that's going to be left, basically. So when we had the perfect 4-3-3 under Gerrard, we pressed as a unit, you know. So not with the players that we've got in that squad. We don't have the ability to be able to the athleticism that's needed, as Ross said, great word, but so true, to actually be able to play the 4-3-3. And you know, you're seeing the way that Celtic play and stuff. Their midfield 3 is in sync with one another. Their front 3's in sync with one another. We're only really, you know, is our even midfield 2? Are they actually in sync at the moment? You know, and is then, you know, who is going to be the number 10? Because we hope it's Bajrami, but he's not really even playing much there yet. I know he's just signed and stuff, but you know, so the point I'm making is, I wouldn't go a flat 3 with the personnel that we currently have.
Stevie, what about you? Flat midfield 3.
It's difficult, but I think we are lacking a bit of industry in the middle. I mean, I know that they played well, but like you said, they cut open, like they just cut right through us, and there was no resistance. It was like, what is happening here? I think they missed one just before they got the first goal, and that to me is like a wake up. It was like, right, you know, tighten up, like really get close to them. Don't let that happen again. And then like a minute later, it happens. You're like, come on, he's actually like paying attention, like in game, like management, like by the players themselves. I know it's difficult when it's like it's all their fans. There's no away fans. It definitely makes a difference, and it'll benefit us in the next game at Ibrox the same time. But yeah, I don't know about yourselves, but obviously when I was growing up, like I remember going to Parkhead and looking at the team sheet. I always refer back to him, but Walter knew what he was doing, and you'd be like, "There's 5 central midfielders playing there," you know. And it was like he just won the midfield. It was like almost every time it was like, all right, but it worked. You know what I mean? He literally packed the midfield out, and every time, or almost every time, we took something away. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, get in there, work as hard as you can, like beef up the numbers, because it will even maybe push like Bajrami up, supporting Dessers and like whatever behind them. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe one more body in that midfield, especially at Parkhead.
Ross, the next question is Philippe Clement getting the best out of the players, especially in the 4-2-3-1 formation? I would maybe look at this in terms of think about where we are just now in terms of the transformation, the overturn, the rebuild that we've had. Is he getting the best out of the players currently?
I guess we need to first understand what is the best out of the players and what is the ceiling that these players have. And I think that goes back to the point earlier of you're buying a young team on limited budget that aren't experienced. And I guess we don't know what that cap is. You know, we've seen glimpses of your Cortez, of your Bajrami, of Cherney, you know, and the capable players, of course they are, but are they the consistent players? Are they the ones that'll play 55 games a season, 60 games a season, whatever it is, and compete in every one? Or are they just players that are going to pick up knocks and you know, have flashes and be you know, have moments? And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? And that's the trust that we have to put in the recruitment. So is he getting out the best out of the players now? very hard to say. They're obviously still gelling. They're still trying to understand each other. But I think there's enough in there to suggest that players like Bayrami are only going to get better. You know, Casa at the back seems to be a real good player. I think Igaman's got absolute huge ceiling of potential on him, without trying to, you know, heap too much pressure on him. So there's definitely, and Cortez as well, I think, put in that bracket. You know, he's a quality player when he gets going, but it's if he gets going that's the key thing. And so it's really hard to say, is he getting the best out of them, because we don't know what the best is. But there's good signs. There's good signs. And look, if this wasn't a Rangers team, if this was a different team, without the pressures that the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow brings, you'd be saying there's real opportunity. You know, there's real green shoots of maybe that's the wrong term to use, but there's real you know, shoots of quality there and potential. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I think when you look at certain players like Cherney, the jury's still out for me, very much so. So is he actually good enough? Is he got the mentality, the mental fortitude and strength to play in this environment week in, week out? Time will tell. But at the minute, you know, it looks like he's you know, quite a sensitive person and you know, not emotional, but you see my point. You know, has he got that strength there to block out everything and the noise and concentrate on his football? I'm not sure yet. Time will tell, and we'll know by the end of the season whether that's with or without Clement, or whether it's with a trophy or without. But you know, we will get there and we will come to the conclusion. I think the thing is as well is, Scotty, you've seen great players come to Ibrox before with experience and fail, and likewise you've seen players who are expected to do rubbish or not perform and they've really stepped up. So always really hard to tell, and you got to remember we're kind of early on in the season. I wanted to ask you, Scotty, something just on the back of that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is there someone in this team who, for you, I mentioned Cherney there, so you know, feel free to use him, but is there someone in there who you think is potentially a bit of an imposter? Is there someone in there who you think's potentially not got the ceiling or the kind of the hype that maybe, you know, a lot of fans think that there is?
Dessers, first person that comes to my mind. Are you talking about the signings or just in the squad?
Yeah. No, just any. So look at that starting 11, and you know, obviously there's potential, there's hype, there's talent, but do you think someone in there that's not that level?
I mean, me, Dean, and Stevie have all been very verbal on how much we wanted Lawrence Shankland to sign, right? And I think not signing a striker in the summer, we've made the same error that we did in January, and it cost us a league title. I firmly believe in January not signing a striker, because the big man was left up front on his own. We over-relied on him. He didn't get a rest. His form was patchy at best at times. And I look at him this season, he got 7 goals in his first 3, 4, 5 matches, and then he just, I don't know, he can't hold the ball up. A big part of how Clement plays is when he goes direct. You've seen it with Igaman when he comes on off the bench, holds the ball up, brings the midfield runners into play. That's essentially how we get the ball to Diamandi, and how Diamandi can then turn in the half space, get the ball out of the flanks, get it through the middle, break the lines, however you want to dress up. Dessers can't do any of that. He can do a lot of things, and it's wrong that we're still over-relying on him at this stage, because we knew Danilo had a dodgy knee, especially after that injury. And Hamza Igaman, I mean, he's only in the door. I mean, he only played a handful of games last season in his current club, you know what I mean? So to me, that's probably the biggest miss of the season again, is not bringing in another striker, a proven goal scorer, that going down to England and getting that journeyman that can come on off the bench and influence a game, i.e. a Jamie Vardy. I'll get filters for it, the comments, but somebody of that ilk that's got experience that can help us at this very young squad.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you bang on. I think interestingly, seeing Proper and his name pop up a couple of times there, there's a jury still out for me on him as well.
Aye, I think the jury's still out in the whole thing.
Something with a comment saying his defenders in the best, but his distribution is really good. I think his distribution is excellent. Crossfield passes, and in Scotland, that probably work. But against the better quality than I might struggle.
Stevie, I'll stay with you on the kind of last question. Where's Sterling's best position, and should Casemiro start over Tav more often, for what you've seen? I
mean, Casa looks, he's only seen him a couple of times, but he looks really impressive. I think I'd like to see him play more games. I know Tav played right wing there we're part of the St Johnstone game. I'm not against that. So yeah, I'd definitely like to see Castle play more games. I'm not a tough hater though. I appreciate what he brings to the team and his stats, his goal contributions last season, his assists. Sorry, Dino, I'm not going about too much. But yeah, another good signing, as Ross pointed out. Castle looks really good. Sorry, did somebody mention Sterling there? I'd still like Sterling to play midfield at Parkhead. That to me I'd have him there. I mentioned like the Walter Smith 5 central midfielders. Sterling would be part of that for me. Just get in there and really mix it up. He's got a tremendous engine, and he can be coached. He can be improved. That's the thing that people tend to write players off too soon for me. This guy can improve and he will. Just randomly, I was talking to a Liverpool fan I know, Nick Gravenberg. He's came on so much at Liverpool this season. He said he watched a pre-season game where there was no fans and he could hear the audio, and Arne Slot coached him for 60 minutes. To any other player, just Gravenberg for 60 minutes and how to run this midfield, and the difference in that guy is phenomenal. So these guys are definitely, they've got talent, so let them develop, let them improve. Can I just say one thing? Heather F made a comment about Lennon Miller. Motherwell, I think we'd all agree we'd love to see him at Rangers, but never know.
I think he's got obvious quality, and we all know what he would bring to the Rangers midfield, but I think that ship sailed, and I don't think we're shopping in the Lennon Miller market anymore. To be brutally honest, I think it's sad. I think in January you look at like Lyle Cameron for Dundee, can come in under freedom of contract in the summer, and then the Shankland rumours are going to start again. Whether you like him or not, he's only scored 1 goal this season, or whether he hasn't, he's still going to get linked. It's still going to be there. It's not going to go away until he signs for another club. Dino, Sterling's position, where do you want to see him? Where can we could do a full pod on John Sterling again. We've done a tribute pod in the summer, but we could actually do another one now because we know he's staying in 2026, I want to say. Maybe no, 2028, signed a new deal till. Where do you see that long-term future? Where can we get money for him? Do you know what I mean?
At right back.
Right back.
Aye, for me, his exploits in midfield and on the wing have kind of the ship sailed for me for that. I think he's reached his ceiling in terms of how good he is, and I think he's not playing at right back where I think we would see much better performances from him when he was at his previous club and stuff. That's where he was really, really good, and where he was played, he was filling in at left back and did a great job at left back as well. So I want to see him in defence. I don't think he's got any sort of real. He's industrious and he's very robust and he's got athleticism, but that's it. He's not particularly good with distribution. He's not creative. He's not got that sort of midfield mind. Whereas I think putting him at right back and being solid defensively is something I would want to see. That's my opinion.
Can I just jump in really quickly? I've just something I've thought about. Could he play centre back? Because he's a unit.
Aye, in fact, when I'm sure that we went down to 10 men against
them. Off to play Derek Parkhead, he was really
man
really
of the
good.
match, or if not man of the match, he was one of our best players that day.
Aye.
So yeah, definitely we can play centre half. So I would like to see him deployed more defensive duties and midfield, as I said, in the midfield. It's past its shelf life for me.
Ross, you're the biggest Sterling fanboy we've got on the Rangers Journal. Where do you want to? Where's his future? How are we going to sell him on for a big fee?
Just anywhere, mate. Just any position. Just close your eyes and point, and he'll play there. He'll do a good job. Look, I don't think he's. I'll probably frame it in this way. I don't think he's an attacking player. So anywhere that's low line midfielder. I agree that you could play right back and centre back's really interesting, concept. I think that'd be really interesting to see him there and maybe trial it. I think he's good enough with the ball at his feet to play in that area, and he's physical enough to play in that area. So there's nothing to suggest that he wouldn't be good in that position. I like him in midfield as a player that breaks up play and is industrious, and he brings a great energy. Sometimes when we've seen him play, he's been a bit messy, a bit scruffy in there, which is understandable. It's not his natural position, but I think he could be coached into it. Stephen mentioned about Gravenberch there, and I think that's a great analogy to use. The guy is athletic, he's strong, he's quick, he breaks up play well, great in the tackle, usually times it very, very well. And these sort of midfield runs on the edge of the box that we've been caught out on against Celtic in particular, he can track players and he's got the speed to make up. So I would like to see him in that sort of defensive midfielder position. He's probably not, I don't think he's a 6 as such, but he's probably as close. It would be probably the closest position that he could play. But him next to Barron with Diomande in front sounds pretty good to me. I think I'd like to see that a bit more and see how we get on with that. So yeah, probably central midfield for me.
Yep, I'd probably need to agree. I just think of his cameo against Betis in the second half, and Isco was tearing us to shreds in the first half, and he came in and just immediately picked the boy up and put him in his pocket, didn't let him out the rest of the match, and I thought, brilliant. I think there's a lot more to come for Sterling, but I do think he needs a run in the team badly. Because folk are starting to pick apart his performances a wee bit again. But
yeah, just to come in on you, sorry there, Scott, he was kind of the messiah for us last season, wasn't he?
Aye.
And then this season comes along and he's not got such a that sort of profile within the squad, and that sort of is leadership the right word, but that sort of, he was held in quite high regard last season by us fans and clearly by the management, and then this season it's kind of taken a step back, and it's it's just quite a weird one, but I just wanted to put that in there.
No, that's fair, mate. So tomorrow night we're going to look at, I'm going to ask a panel to pick 3 or 4 youth players and come on and tell me why that they can be the next youth player to make the breakthrough at Rangers. We're not seeing enough of it. I think it's a topic worth looking into if we do it from a different angle. We'll be back at 6:30 tomorrow night. Ross, thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries. Enjoyed it. Thanks, lads.
No problem, mate. No problem. Dino, thanks for coming on, pal.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
No bother. Steve, nice talking to you again, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everybody who contributed. Some great comments tonight.
No problem. Right, everybody, please like and subscribe everywhere. We're on TikTok now. Tomo's running that. We're on Facebook. We're going to have another giveaway coming up. It's a Connor Barron signed photograph, which has been kindly donated from Blue Memorabilia. So please head on over to their Facebook and Twitter and follow and like them and see what else we've got coming up. Episode 2 of Philippe Come On at Club Brugge will be released on Saturday, probably midday. So we're trying to fill up this boring international break with plenty of Rangers content for you. And apart from that, just remember, smash a like button, and every night is Rangers Journal night. Good night.